one of the first things we want to look at is how we expect you to be engaging with the learning here. And I'd like you to just do a little mind experiment, if you would, with me. Think about a time when you knew exactly what to do, when the task was simple, easy to understand, well within your bounds in terms of your skills and your knowledge. And what was that like? When you think about a time when you've known exactly what to do, what does that feel like? Oftentimes people will say something like it feels safe, it feels like they feel confident. They will often also sometimes say that they have a great sense of happiness in this. Some people also say they might start to feel a little bit bored as well. There's a number of different things people will say around this, but I'd like you to just take a moment for yourself and think about that for yourself. When you've known exactly what to do, what does that feel like? Now, let's take another step. Let's step outside of that comfort zone, that we'll call it. What is it when you start to move into new territory where you're not quite so sure what to do, or when the task is a little bit beyond your skill level? It might be slightly complex. It might be something that's a little bit chaotic as well. What does that feel like? Sometimes people will say there's a sense of fear, there's a sense of anxiety. There can also be a sense of excitement, and there can be a sense of new possibilities as well. And then we could even take a final step beyond that to a zone where it's just constant chaos, constant new changes so quickly that we don't have a chance to ever recoup. So those describe 3 different levels of engagement there. Often when people think about this, though, I get them to think about the last time they really learned something, the last skills they learned, and they think about the big lessons they've learned that have made the most impact on their lives. Where were you when you learned those skills? And so there's a comfort zone, and then we describe this next zone out from that as sort of the learning zone. This is the area where we're slightly out of our comfort zone and have started to, stretch ourselves. We can even ask this question a different way. If you stayed in your comfort zone, if you're always trying to maintain a zone where you perfectly felt safe and you perfectly felt like you know what you're doing, what might start to happen with the boundaries of that zone? Well, usually people notice that they start to shrink. You start to become comfortable with less and less and less, and you start to narrow your possibilities. Whereas if you go outside of your comfort zones, what happens to the boundaries then? Well, they start to be widening. I think a simple example, I'm teaching my son to drive a car right now. And right now he has to think a lot about where's the clutch and what gear am I supposed to be in. And this is definitely in his learning zone. He's really having to think carefully. You can see, his lips tighten, and he's on full alert as he tries to drive his car down the road. Hopefully, in 10 years' time, he won't even think about it. He can carry on a conversation and he'll be able to drive with ease. His comfort zone will have expanded to include this new territory. So this describes somewhat what we're talking about when we talk about learning here in this colloquium as well. And what we want to emphasize is that this is not meant to be an easy walk in the park for you. What would it be like if you signed up to work with a personal trainer at your gym and they never asked you to lift weights or never asked you to build up a sweat? Well, that's the same analogy that we'd like to draw to what we're going to be doing in the colloquium. So during this colloquium, we're going to be asking you to step into the learning zone and ask questions of each other, participate in the online discussions, and also on the discussions that are in the portal as well. We'll be asking you to participate in terms of calling you during the course webinars, and the more you put into this, the more likely you're going to be to expand your learning zone into your comfort zone.